Man, the Napoleonic era was rough. Holdfast pits historically accurate armies against each other in replicated battles across land and sea. There aren't many games that center around this time period, and I'm guessing because it's probably tough to make an enjoyable game out of such grueling combat. Let's dive into this one and see how it panned out. This is your fairly typical FPS multiplayer game with multiple game modes and classes, just that they're themed around a very old era this time. You can play the game in either first or third person. Each of course will have its own benefits and penalties, but I always loved having the freedom to choose which view I wanted. The uniforms and battlefields are all, for the most part, very historically accurate, which is pretty nifty that they went to those lengths. Reloading your weapon is also appropriately slow for the time period. It's a great premise at face value, but most servers people just tend to play it like Call of Duty, with slower reloads. You get to play on either land or sea, both providing their own unique challenges. Land-based combat obviously has the inaccurate weapons and slower reloads to contend with. Sea-based combat features blasting each other to splinters with cannons. Heck, you can even ram and board your enemies if you so choose to. Aiming the cannons at sea requires skill and practice because there's no aiming reticule. Thus forth, it makes scoring hits and sinking enemy ships incredibly gratifying. There are 4 main modes that can be played: Siege, Assault, Conquest, and Battlefield. Siege features an attacking team and a defending team. Attackers must capture all points on the map before a timer runs out to win. Assault has limited spawns for each player, usually only 1. This is most often the game mode for regiment and line battle events and is not typically seen on public servers. Conquest features multiple capture points spread out across the entire map. You gain a fixed amount of points over each passing second for each point held, so the more points you hold, the faster your points accumulate. The first team to reach max points wins. Lastly is Battlefield. Deathmatch themed combat where the first team to reach a set number of kills wins. Oh, and let's not forget about the melee arena for all you rock'em and sock'em types. I'm not sure if the developers wanted the game to be silly, but this is not a serious game. There is a ton of randomness, trolls, and players who drum up some of the worst impersonated accents you will ever hear. This always managed to put a smile on my face, but it's not entirely what I was expecting out of this game. I don't know, let me know in the comments below if you're expecting something like that out of this game. The game offers up several classes to try that will meet most playstyles. Infantry officers will lead their respective infantry who run around trying to stab each other and doctors trying to patch up said stab wounds. Musicians to boost morale and give combat perks. Because who goes to battle without music? Unthinkable! Cannons to blast their entrenchments and infantry. Rockets to do the same but through indirect fire. Horses! To, and several other roles. Regiments, aka clans, also exist with in-game support. It's fun to play each role, but you'll find yourself being enticed to play them in some sort of goof-off manner because of the game's informality, silliness, and general janky feeling. Regardless of how much fun this can be, it will leave you feeling like something more is missing, like the entire experience is rather hollow and pointless. The whole game just feels incredibly clunky and odd if I'm honest. Sometimes your bayonet stab works, other times it doesn't. Sometimes you get shot in the head from an inaccurate musket from over 150 meters away while you can't seem to hit the broadside of a barn. This is honestly the Achilles heel of this game and its biggest pitfall. People cannot take it seriously, so it just develops into chaos, trolling, and memery. Every single game. I will give the developer some credit as they have patched the game up heavily over the years to get it in a better state. Believe me, this was a much bigger issue before, and it has been fixed quite a bit since then. It's just disappointing to see it's not meeting its full potential. These issues for the most part seem fairly centralized to land-based combat. Missions at sea were actually an incredible amount of fun to play. As I mentioned before, it takes a lot of practice to be able to accurately fire on the opposing ships. When you do score a hit, you actually feel like you had to work for it, which leads to some addicting gameplay. I find myself personally coming back more and more for the sea-based combat. Working with a closely knit team and having a captain barking out fire orders is just terribly good fun. The sea's game modes on this type will end in a land-based raid supported by ships at range. This actually feels more in tune with what the game should play like, and I just wish that it would have carried over more to the rest of the game. Alright, let's dig into this one's pros and cons. Rare gameplay style. Like I mentioned earlier, Napoleonic era games are not very common, especially not one done in first and third person shooter styles. Class and game mode variety. It's nice to be able to choose to fight over land and sea and have several game modes and classes to choose from in between there as well. It's always a nice addition for a game. Hilarious. This game will put a smile on your face because of the way people play it. You just gotta wade through the mic spammers and trolls to get there. On the flip side, we do have some fairly serious cons. Walking to die simulator. I always felt like half of my gameplay was just simply walking to get somewhere and very little actual time in combat. Certain game modes make this considerably worse as the spawns can get quite far from the action as the game progresses. Clunky and tiring gameplay. It just doesn't play very well and its core mechanics don't feel right to me. Silliness. Well, this adds to the hilarity of the game in almost every single funny clip you see of it. It's just not what's expected for a game centering on this era. This is this game's biggest pitfall. Unless, of course, you watched a funny video of the game and strictly bought it for comedic relief, that is. I'm not so sure I can blame the developers for that, though. I mean, the game does play a little clunky, which kind of forces people to do it, but again, that's more the community than their problem, isn't it? Either way, it's something worth mentioning as it is something you will experience in this game. I rate this one 5 out of 10, average, and receives the buy on sale recommendation. It does have its fun, but this game is like a bad movie that you just can't stop watching because it makes you laugh at it so much. I feel like the developers gave this one an honest to God shot, but it's almost impossible to play true to the era, or even seriously for that matter. This will leave you wanting more and grow tired of it quickly. Perhaps Regiments might save it for some. I feel most people will play it for a few hours, laugh, shrug, and move on to the next one. As always, please remember that these are only my opinions of this game. If you've been watching this footage and think to yourself, damn, this looks like a really great game, don't let me hold you back. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Perhaps you even have the game and you would like to weigh in on the discussion. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and make sure that alerting bell is on. That way, you'll always be alerted for future reviews and content features. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you on the front lines.